Page 932. Page 933. Page 934. Page 935. Page 936. Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Olorogbe.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Ibrahim Yahya Olorogbe. I represent Kwara Central Constituency. I rise to move that the vote and proceedings of Thursday, the 13th of February 2020 be adopted. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Chukwuka Utazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North and the 12 districts of Enugu State. I rise to second the motion that the votes and proceedings of 13th February 2020 be adopted. I so move.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 13th February 2020 be adopted, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Thursday, 13th February 2020 is hereby approved. The 14th of February 2020, that was last week, was the birthday of one of our distinguished colleagues, Senator Ojang Sandi Ono, the only professor in the Senate. Mr. Professor, distinguished colleague, on behalf of the Senate, I wish you a very happy birthday, very long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Professor Oropes is not in the chamber today. So when I said the only professor in the Senate, I mean presently. Congratulations. Today is the birthday of very distinguished Senator Danju Mala, the senator representing Kaduna South. Distinguished, we wish you a very happy birthday, long life, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Congratulations. I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Gadmark Kiddies Academy, Kurudu, Abuja, who are here in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings. You may stand up for recognition. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down. Thank you. I also wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Ray J. International School, Suleja, Niger State, who are also here in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings today. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down, please. And finally, I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of St. Hilary's College, Amoji, Naik, Enugu State, who are also in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings today. You are welcome. I wish you a very fruitful observation of our proceedings today. You may sit down. Thank you. Petitions. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Augustine Ovi Omo Agegi, the DSP, on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2000. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2020, SB 318, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alteration Bill 2020, SB 318, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Adaji Odua on Investment Assurances Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Investment Assurances Bill 2020, SB 110, first reading.
Investment Assurances Bill 2020, SB 110, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Biodun Olujimi on the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act Cap B2 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, Cap B2, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020, SB 330, first reading.
Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act Cap B2 LFN 2004. Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020 SB 330, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima on the Nigerian Arabic Language Village in Gala Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Arabic Language Village, Ungala, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, SB 331, first reading.
Nigerian Arabic Language Village, Ungala, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, SB 331, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume on the Nigerian Army University Bill, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Army University Bill, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, SB 332, first reading.
Nigerian Army University Bill, Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, SB 332, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Aviation on the screening of the nomination of Captain Musa Shuaibu Nuhu for appointment as Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority NCAA. Distinguished senators will recall that the request was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 29th January 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Smart Adeyemi, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Smart Adeyemi.
Mr. President, Smart Adeyemi Kogi West, I rise on behalf of the Senate Committee on Aviation that the Senate do receive and consider the screening of Captain Musa Nuhu as the Director General of Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Abraham Gobe. You second the motion.
Thank you, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Brian Weber. I hereby support the motion that subpoena of the presidential nominee for confirmation as Director General of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority be accepted. I so second, Your Excellency.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Aviation on the confirmation of the nomination of Captain Musa Nuhu for appointment as the DG of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Lay the report. You may present the report, please.
Mr. President, may I comment this report from page 2? Page 2. 2.0. The committee met and agreed. The committee met and agreed on the modality for carrying out the screening of the presidential nominee. This includes, among others, the request is curriculum vitae and credentials from the special advisor to the President of National Assembly matters. The committee then considered the credentials of the nominee as well as interviewed him with a view to ascertain his competence for the position. The committee requested and received the following documents of the nominee from the special advisor to the President on National Assembly matters, namely, number 1, the curriculum vitae, clearance from Department of Security Service, police report, code of conduct acknowledgement slip, and other relevant certificates. The committee, after studying the curriculum vitae of the nominee as well as other relevant documents, invited him in person for screening. The nominee accordingly appeared before the committee for the screening on Wednesday, the 12th of this month, in meeting room 107, Senate Building, National Assembly. The committee interviewed the nominee based on the brief received on his life history, work experiences, suitability, competence, and integrity for appointment as the Director General of Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. The details, Mr. President, are as follows. Captain Musa Nuhu was born on 28th of April 1962 in Kano State. He hailed from Huntoro, Kudu, in Nasarawa local government area of Kano State. He obtained his first school leaving certificate at St. Louis Primary School, Kano, in 1974. He attended the Federal Government College, Kano, from 1974 to 1976, and later Government Secondary School, Nasarawa, where he obtained West African School Certificate in 1979. He licensed as a pilot in both the US FAA transport with pilot license number 2305725, and the Nigeria Airline Transport with pilot license number 3758 in 1981 and 1982 respectively. Mr. President, in 2001, he earned an aviation safety certificate from the University of Southern California, and in 2006, he had a degree in International Aviation Master of Business Administration from the Concordia University, Montreal, Canada. Work experience. Captain Musa.
You can cut out all those things and you can go to the recommendation, or if there is anything in the findings. So you don't have to read the entire report to save time.
Mr. President, at the end of the screening exercise of Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu, the committee findings are as follows: that the nominee has requisite experience, that he possesses relevant academic and professional qualification, and that there was no petition against his nomination. Conclusion: arising from his wealth of experience in the aviation sector, the committee considers Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu suitable for appointment as Director General, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. Recommendations. Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished senators, the committee recommends that the Senate do adopt the report of the Senate Committee on Aviation and confirm the nominee, Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu, as Director General, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. That the Senate do consider the report of the committee and approve its recommendation. I so submit, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate Committee of the Whole. We go to the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly distinguished and respectable colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves in the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that we revert to Committee of the Whole in consideration of this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We are going to do approval now. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu for appointment as Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that the chair moves back to plenary to report progress. I so move.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress.
Those in favor that the chair reports progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole consider the report of the Committee on Aviation on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as Director General of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, and approve the nomination of Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu as Director General of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. We are doing confirmation now. Will the the Senate confirm the nomination of Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu for appointment as Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Captain Musa Shaibu Nuhu is hereby confirmed as Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA. Congratulations to the confirmed DG. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Federal College of Forestry Technology Research, Bindingwari, Kaduna State Establishment Etc. Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was raised the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ubasani to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Ubasani.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, my name is Ubasani. I represent Kaduna Central. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you for the opportunity to lead the debate on the general principle of the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Birnungwari, Kaduna State. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. Forests are critical to human survival. They provide social and economic benefits. Their contribution to the overall economy of our country are enormous. The forest sector provides employment. There is the processing and trade of forest products and energy. The contributions of forests to national development include the hosting and protection of sites and landscapes of high cultural, spiritual, and recreational value. Maintaining and enhancing these functions is an integral part of sustainable forest management. The forestry sector is interrelated with other sectors such as agriculture, natural resources management, education, tourism and infrastructure, and trade. The management of forests is a matter of high public importance in a country like Nigeria and has substantial forest resources. The policies governing such management may determine in the long run the nation's economic survival. A heavy responsibility therefore rests on forest officers to provide public understanding of the importance of forests and to develop public support for necessary legal and administrative measures to ensure sound management of forests. It is important for foresters to have cutting-edge education. Forestry as a profession is becoming increasingly complex. Forestry now draws extensively upon the physical sciences and engineering, upon biology and applied ecology, and upon social sciences of economics and resource management. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the establishment of the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Bindungwari, Kaduna State, is therefore an important step in upscaling the knowledge and skills of our forest managers to keep pace with advances in forestry research and technology. Some of the objectives of college as outlined in the bill are: A, to carry out research, training, extension, and dissemination of findings in forestry technology, development, applied science, commerce, and management. B, to improve genetic resources of forest trees and ecosystem for economic development. C, to research on the control of pests and diseases of forest trees. D, to conduct research into the different suitable biological materials and appropriate methods of control of ecological and environmental problems of the country in respect to desertification, soil erosion, and deforestation. E, to make suitable arrangements for the application of the results of research work by the federal, state governments, and private sector for the economic development of Nigeria. F, to carry out such other fields of applied learning relevant to the needs of the development of Nigeria in the areas of industrial and agricultural production and distribution, and for research in the development and adaptation of forestry techniques, as the Council may from time to time determine. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, if Nigeria is to become one of the world leading economies as is currently being pursued by this administration, we must be ready to commit adequate funds to some critical sectors of the economy, amongst which education is one of the most critical. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the Federal College of Forestry, Technology and Research, Benengwari, Kaduna State, when established, will bring about significant developments and ideas in many facets of forestry, which include but is not limited to economics, education, communication, entomology, pathology, fire, forest, ecology, geospatial technologies, history, international forestry, measurement, policy, recreation, silviculture, social sciences, soil and hydrology, urban and community forestry, utilization engineering, and wildlife management. The college will also make significant contributions to economic diversification through expanding the frontier of agroforestry, especially now that cashew, shavota, mango, guava, among others, are becoming prominent in our export and local industrial crops. I therefore urge Mr. President and my respected colleagues to support that this bill be read the second time. In line with Order 77.3 of Senate Standing Rules, Orders 2015 as amended, a compendium of the financial implications of the establishment of Federal College of Forestry, Technology and Research, Benengwari, Kaduna State, is hereby attached. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my distinguished colleagues. I so move.
Any contribution, Senator Njumala? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Njuma. I rise to support this motion raised by my colleagues and to assure you that this motion is a very beautiful motion, a very beautiful bill. I second the bill so that everybody makes sure that we support this bill in order to establish this federal forestry. It is for all, and everybody will learn very, very well. Thank you, Mr. President. I second.
Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadija.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to support this bill for the second reading as presented by Senator Obasani. And to say that from my experience, I think Kaduna State should be encouraged in this regard. I say this because I'm aware of the effort they have been making in the last 4 years to help propagate not just seedlings, but also to come up with a system of ensuring that these seedlings are planted. Mr. President, about 3 years ago, the state government sent out an advertisement looking for help to produce about 2.5 million seedlings. And I personally attended the launching of that initiative in Kaduna State and was very impressed. Secondly, Mr. President, I think an institute like this would help the country preserve most of its indigenous trees, which are slowly being lost to deforestation and illegal logging. A lot of us may not be aware that some of the trees that are indigenous to this country or our locality that we knew by name as children can hardly be found anywhere now. So if we set up an institute such as this, I believe that they would help in preserving the genetic material and help propagate and bring back some of these indigenous trees that are slowly being lost. Trees that have medicinal properties, trees that we all grew and played with as young men that can no longer be found. And thirdly, Mr. President, I believe that an institute such as this would not just focus on development of material, but also how to ensure that this material developed in our nurseries is planted sustainably. At the moment, less than 10% of what is planted in all these tree planting campaigns survives to maturity. So I think in supporting this bill, Mr. President, will ensure that we put a very firm foundation for tackling what is becoming a very serious problem in afforestation. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Muhammad Sani Musa, representing Niger East. I rise to support this bill in totality because the deforestation that is happening towards, especially the northwest to north central, is becoming very alarming. And with an institution like this, there will be more efforts at preserving the forestries we have. And then the economic importance, just as the earlier speaker said, it's very important because if we conserve our forestry, there are a lot of benefits that come with it. And then the issue of security also, especially around Bindingwari, which is the location of the Kamuku forest. And the Kamuku forest is like a belt which starts from Zamfara State to Katsina, Kaduna, Niger, up to New Busa. So with the institution located in Bendongwari, I believe that it will also give light back to Kamuku forest, whereby the bandits will not be able to also have a hiding place because that place will be made busy. I rise then to support this bill in totality, and I believe that my colleagues will also support it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Idigen.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Senator Idigen, and I rise to support the passage of this bill on second reading that has to do with the establishment of this college on forestry, technology, and research. And to say that how we manage our ecosystem, and in particular the current challenges of climate change, requires that we, as a matter of deliberate policy, invest in forestry technology and research so that we can train scholars, experts, and personnel in this special field. We know that there has been efforts in this country like the Green Belt Initiative intended to check desertification. Further calls for the need for us to train experts in forestry and forest management so that this laudable initiative, like the Green Belt Initiative, can have the kind of a personnel that will man and manage it. I therefore support the passage of this bill on second reading so that we have this institution that will serve in advancing our quest of human capital development in the critical area of forestry, technology, and research. I support the passage of the bill on second reading. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Biringwari, Kaduna State, to provide full-time courses in forestry technology, preservation, development, and other field of studies, and to make provisions for the general administration of the college and for other related matters therewith, 2020, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Biringwari, Kaduna State, to provide full-time courses in forestry technology, preservation, development, and other field of studies, and to make provisions for the general administration of the college and for other related matters therewith, 2020 second reading taken, and is referred to the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Federal College of Forestry Technology and Research, Akwankwa Establishment Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 13th November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Gashon Basi to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Leader, you can stand it down because the sponsor is not here. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the bill be stood down for the next for another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the second reading of Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo, Benue State, Establishment Structural Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator
Chief Whip or Acting Whip. Who is Acting Whip? Leader, who is the Acting Whip?
Pardon. The fourth order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo, Benue State, Establishing a Structural Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Comrade Patrick Abba-Moro to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Patrick Abba-Moro.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abba-Moro, representing the very good people of the Benue South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, may I humbly seek your consent to lead the debate on this pivotal bill, which seeks, amongst other things, to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, Benue State. The bill was read for the first time in this revered chamber on Tuesday, 26 November 2019. Mr. President, respected colleagues, may I use this opportunity to accentuate some of the objectives and intent of the bill, which certainly will not just furnish justification for its laudable legislative approach, but will also motivate the National Assembly to accelerate the legislative process in passing this bill into law. As aforementioned, the bill seeks to establish the Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, being the first Federal University of Health Sciences in Nigeria, so as to aggrandize the access to medical education in Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is common knowledge that the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, JAMB, is the Nigerian Entrance Examination Board for tertiary level institutions. Consequently, JAMB conducts entrance unified tertiary matriculation examination for prospective undergraduates into Nigerian universities. According to statistics from JAMB in 2017, the existing medical tertiary institutions in Nigeria admit less than 20% of candidates desirous and qualified to study medicine and its allied sciences in Nigerian universities. The university, when established, will address the dearth in admission of students aspiring to study medicine and allied sciences in Nigeria and the supply of the much needed manpower in our health services industry. It is pertinent to mention here that the teeming Nigerian population puts enormous strain and stress on the national infrastructure and available health personnel. The Federal University of Health Sciences, Otukpo, when established, will bridge the gap of the challenges of inadequate health professionals in our country, Nigeria. Mr. President, respected colleagues, permit me to bring to your notice the fact that Nigeria has only about 72,000 nationally registered medical doctors, with only 35,000 practicing medical doctors, serving a population approximated to be about 200 million people. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, may I also mention further that the Federal University of Health Sciences Otukpo Bill is a development that was looked into by the past administration. The bill was initiated by the then President of the Senate of the 7th and of the Senate in the 7th and 8th Senate by Senator David Mark GCON in the 80th Senate, which passed the various stages of lawmaking and received a resounding support from legislators and stakeholders across the country. However, the bill was never transmitted for assent before the end of that Senate. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, may I also mention that His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, has already approved the establishment of the Federal University of Health Sciences in Otukpo. In line with Order 77.3 of the Senate Standing Order 2015 as amended, a compendium of the financial implication of the establishment of the university is hereby attached. Mr. President, I therefore humbly urge you to support, and respected colleagues, I humbly urge you to support this bill and give it an accelerated passage to give the institution the requisite legislative backing it needs for proper functioning. Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Senator Sandy Ono.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Sandy Ono, Cross River Central. Mr. President, it is heartwarming to note that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has graciously approved the establishment of this university as we speak. What we are doing here is trying to lay the legislative foundation, the law for its establishment, which is as it should be. From listening to our colleague, Comrade Abamoro, it is very, very clear that the basis for the establishment of this university cannot be underscored. Health matters for our citizens, especially qualitative health, whether in terms of training or practice, is something that must always be supported by well-meaning Nigerians. I therefore waste no time whatsoever in supporting this bill and asking that it be read for the second time. Thank you very much.
Senator James Ebiowo, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected colleagues, James BOO, Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. President, I also rise to support this bill for the second time. I recall, Mr. President, that this particular bill was presented by the then Senate President, the Senate President for the 7th and 8th, the 6th and 7th Senate, 6th and 7th Senate. But the bill itself was presented in the 8th Senate. I recall that you were the Senate leader at the time this bill was presented. And of course, the then Deputy Senate President was presiding. And the bill, this particular bill, and the bill received support from everybody, including your humble self, who is presiding today. Mr. President, as revealed in the lead debate, this university is already in existence. And I also revealed in the lead debate, all the processes at this level, they were all concluded, but just that the bill was not presented to the President for his assent. And so we must find a way of doing things so that we'll go into brand new things in the Senate. There must be a way. Those bills that went to the President and they were not assented, where they raised some observations here and there, and then those ones that have passed through the entire process. Because we need to do things differently. This is not a new bill at all, Mr. President. Since this bill has passed through the entire the journey here, I'm sure you leading the part of leadership of the National Assembly, you must find a way to bridge the gap so that some of those bills can be sent to the President doing it differently. That's Mr. President. Mr. President, no, there was no power then. Don't distract me. Mr. President, I support this bill just like I did that time, more so when the bill itself is complete with the compendium of the financial cost and every details are there, and it is about health. And I'm sure it's going to be a very unique university in this country. Mr. President, I support the bill and I urge everybody to support the same bill.
The Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, if I am not mistaken, I think from the facts available, this appears to be the first of its kind in the country. And I know that was the information provided to us in the 8th Senate while we were debating this bill, as explained by my colleague here. It is a very unique institution that we need as a country because of its professional outlook. And unlike other institutions that we canvass through bills that should be established just for the purpose of seeing that this institution should be established, but this particular one is very, very unique. And like he said, we were all unanimous that we need this university. So I'm not surprised that the President granted an expeditious approval for work to commence on this university. So I want to add my voice that this university is germane and is noble and very timely for our country. At a time that we have several victims of crisis, we need hospitals, we need professionals to be trained that will be spread all over the country that will attend to people that will need medical attention. So I want to add my voice and support this bill and request and appeal that even as a compliment to a man that presided over a very peaceful Senate for 8 years, that Mr. President, we grant this bill an expeditious passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Before I put the question, let me say that when this bill was brought before the Senate in the 8th Senate, I made my comments then as Senate leader. And I said the sponsor of the bill then, Senator David Mark, who presided over the Senate for 8 years, the 6th and the 7th Senate, not only brought a very important bill, but also served this National Assembly and this country meritoriously. And if there was anything we could do to show appreciation for service done to this country, we didn't need to waste any time at that time to pass the bill. I'm happy that Mr. President already approved the establishment of this institution, but I think this is one bill that deserves all our support. And going forward, I want to agree with Senator James Ebuyo, manager, that those bills that we processed almost through all the stages, one, we should fast track them by even maybe taking out the public hearing that we just cost us time and the resources that we can avoid. So we need to look at those bills that were passed or processed fully and passed by the Senate and indeed the National Assembly, but were not assented to. We reviewed the observations and objections on the grounds on which they were not assented to. And then we address them and take them back for this thing without going through again public hearing and all these but new bills we can do that. And I think this is the way to go. Senate leader, you take note of this. You and the minority leader and the committee on business and rules, you go through the list. I have requested for that, and I already have a list I was given this morning, giving out the various stages of the bills that we process in the 8th Senate, but were not assented to. So with this, I think the leader, we had discussions along this line. We should sort out those bills that we have processed fully, but were not assented to, and we look at the objections or the observations and take care of them, and then the others. With this, I will now put the question. Those in favor? Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Health Science, Otukpo, Benue State, to make comprehensive provisions for its due management and administration and for matters connected therewith, 2020, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish Federal University of Health Science, Otukpo, Benue State, to make comprehensive provision for its due management and administration and for matters connected therewith, 2020, second reading taken. And the bill is hereby referred to the Senate Committee on Health to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences, Abeokuta, Ogun State, Establishment Structure Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 8 October 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibikule Amosun to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Ibikule Amosun.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ibikunle Amosun, I represent Ogun Central. Mr. President, before I present this, I lead the debate on this very important bill for second reading. Let me commend Senator Abamoro, because I listened attentively to when he was presenting, when he led the debate for the second reading of the bill that we just passed Now, In line with that, Mr. President, let me crave the indulgence of this distinguished Senate to now lead the debate on a bill for the establishment of Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, 8th of October 2019. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, this bill seeks to establish the Federal University of Medicine and Medical Sciences in Abeokuta and make comprehensive provision for its management and administration. One of the reasons why it is important that we have this specialized university is that having medical schools as part of full-fledged conventional universities have hitherto not proven to be effective. This is because many of our traditional universities consistently grapple with lack of resources and funding to support their academic programs. Given that medical and health sciences programs are capital intensive, conventional universities in Nigeria are often unable to provide adequate resources needed to launch and operate a world-class medical school. The annual budgetary allocation to the conventional universities do not adequately fund the medical schools. There was an attempt in the past to solve this challenge with the recommendation by the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria that universities should consider establishing independently administered colleges of medicine as a way to partly decentralize power and garner additional resources for the medical schools. Specialized medical universities have become very important in the country as there are high demand for medical and allied health professionals in Nigeria. Many reports suggest that the number of doctors, dentists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and bachelor's degree prepared nurses in the country are just not adequate to deal with the increasing population growth and the healthcare needs of the people in this country. The rising wave of external migration of medical and allied health professionals seeking greener pastures in more developed countries further compounds the problem. Furthermore, some critically needed health professionals, such as physical and occupational therapists, medical engineers, physiotherapists, and others, are just not adequately produced in the country. Indeed, some of the disciplines are on the verge of extinction due to the mass emigration of the professionals. Universities of Medicine and Medical Sciences have an excellent chance to train the critically needed health professionals, as they will have flexibilities for creative program expansion. The shortage of critical health professionals due to migration has become more chronic in recent years. For a leading country in Africa, such as Nigeria, the mass exodus of our health professionals to other countries is dangerous to the development of our healthcare system. Health indicators may continue to decline in the absence of aggressive interventions to stop this. More doctors and health professionals leaving the country has led to a shortage of Nigerian doctors and specialized healthcare practitioners. This has resulted in a heavy strain and dissatisfaction among those remaining. It is equally creating a fast rising personnel deficit in the country's health sector, as statistics shows that there's a ratio of 1 doctor to 100 patients, especially in our public hospitals. The establishment of this institution is informed by the imperative to create more access to higher medical studies in view of the large number of qualified candidates who are annually stranded in their failed attempt in gaining admission into higher institutions in the state. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objective of the university shall be, 1, to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction the opportunity of acquiring a higher education in medicine and other health sciences. Number 2, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of diplomas, first degree, postgraduate research, and higher degrees with emphasis on planning, adaptive, technical, maintenance, developmental, and productive skills in the field of medicine, biomedical engineering, scientific, and allied professional disciplines relating to health resources, with the aim of producing socially matured persons. producing socially matured persons with capacity not only to understand, use, and adapt existing technologies in the health industry, but also to improve on those disciplines and develop new ones, as well as to contribute to the scientific transformation of medical and other health practices in Nigeria, to act as agents and catalysts through postgraduate training, research, and innovation for the effective and economic utilization, exploitation, and conservation of Nigeria's natural, economic, and human resources. And finally, to identify medical needs of Nigeria and to find solutions to them within the context of overall national development, as well as provide and promote sound basic scientific training as a foundation for the development of medicine and allied discipline. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the health sector has very high potentials and require high-level medical, scientific, and administrative skills to drive it. The establishment of this university will go a long way into achieving these targets. This bill is well organized for its very own purpose of a modern academic and research institution. The objectives of the university, as articulated above, are supportive of its mission and broad vision of a modern institution that will develop world-class medical personnel that can sustainably manage our nation's health sector by providing medical expertise at the highest level. The university is therefore conceived to further advance knowledge through research and nurture unique innovations, entrepreneurship, and wealth management in its core area of interest. Mr. President, for the smooth takeoff of the new university, a landmass of 170 hectares has been donated in Abeokuta. The certificate of occupancy has always been processed, while full compensation has equally been paid to all inhabitants and occupants of the land. In addition, Mr. President, there is in existence in Abeokuta, in Ogun State, a functional medical center established about 30 years ago. The hospital has about 100 specialists and consultants in various fields of medicine who will form the crop of foundation staff for the medical school. This will not only reduce the cost of starting the school, but make it a medical school of excellence. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the enactment of this bill will help in transforming the health and education functions in Nigeria by producing the desired medical manpower and expertise that Nigeria is yearning for. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in line with Order 77.3 of our standing rules, the financial compendium is hereby attached for your consideration. The good people of Ogun State will forever remain grateful to the 9th National Assembly for supporting and passing this bill. I hereby move for the second reading of this all-important bill. Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues.
Senator Ahmed Adameloro.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adamu Alero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, I rise to second this very important bill. The establishment of specialized university to cater for the training of medical personnel is very important. Right now, we have dearth of manpower in medical sciences, to the extent that the ratio of one doctor is up to about 500. Even though in the lead debate, the presenter had mentioned 100. It's much more than that. As we all know, our population is increasing. Perhaps in the next 15 years, we will be the third largest country in the world in terms of population. So there is need for adequate preparation for healthcare. If you have population boom, you need to prepare for education, for health, and for other social services. And that's why this bill is apt. The establishment of the university is in the right direction. Already about 150 hectares have been provided. The minimum requirement is 100 hectares. So Ogun State government has graciously approved up to about 170. 70 hectares more than what the NUC, that is National University Commission, requires. So it is important we give approval to this university. Not only that, Mr. President, the death of manpower is mentioned by the lead presenter, leading to the brain drain. So many medical personnel trained in Nigeria are now looking for greener pastures. Most of them are now in Europe, America, and the Middle East. Perhaps the solution is to train more doctors so that they can stay in the country and work for Nigerians. So for this reason, Mr. President, I support the establishment of this university, and I urge all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Senator Olubunmi Adetumbi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Olubunmi Adetumbi, representing Ekiti North. I'd like to congratulate the sponsor of this bill. It's a very, very important and quite strategic for the human resource development of our country. All the investment in Nigeria in infrastructure will be sustainable when we have a population that is healthy and that is educated. That's the context in which I want to the economies. And this is exactly what Nigeria is doing by the establishment of these special universities. The special university for medical sciences has become necessary because a lot of the existing colleges of medicine within existing universities are already oversaturated. Their capacity to absorb more students, to fill the gaps in the supply of medical practitioners is becoming limited. And I think this is a very, very innovative addition to the specialized university system that Nigeria has been pursuing for some time. A lot of preparatory work has been done according to the mover, and which Senator Adamu Ailero just pointed to. The land is available, the students are there waiting for this school to be approved, and in order for them to go to our various hospitals and offer medical services to Nigerians. On this note, Mr. President, I'd like to second and third and support this bill so that it can be adopted for further processing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Butadari.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Buhari Abdul Fattah, Oyo North. Mr. President, specialized medical school is very, very, very important for our country. In most developed world, they have these specialized schools, particularly in the field of medicine. Mr. President, most of the universities in Nigeria that offer medicine, when they finish and they want to go for postgraduate in the developed world, they send them first to the Caribbean for what is called rotational before they can adopt them into their university, because they believe where they are coming from, they don't have confidence in them. But if we have this type of specialized school, and then we are able to establish and have a niche for ourselves that this school is purely on medicine, it will help the country, it will help our students, it will even help the exodus of medical personnel that are leaving the country for greener pasture. By the time if you are going, replacement will be on hand, because most people who have the capacity to go for medicine, just because the manpower is not there, the cutoff is unnecessarily high. They will be telling you 320, 300, 280. How can you tell me a child that got 260, 270 and having 7 credits or 8 credits in WAEC should not be able to enter medicine? But the vacancy is not there. But by the time we have this type of specialized school,